Hello, everyone. Hi. Let's be seated and take a breath. I'm so glad for this turnout. Thank you very, very much for coming. We have important work going on and important work to do. So, again, I'm welcoming you all on this beautiful Sunday afternoon, 133 days into the second Trump administration. Hope and spring eternal. And that is why we are here today, to help each other create reasons for hope. My name is Betsy Nachman, and I serve on the election response team of the Social Justice Committee here at the Berkeley Fellowship of Unitarian Universalists. I want to thank my team for making this event happen. We are proud and grateful to have with us today a group of speakers from long-standing agencies who are working perhaps harder than ever before to help people moving to this country find what everyone is entitled to: respect, dignity, security, empowerment, reward for hard work, and the basic necessities: food, home, health care, education, the right to legal advice and a court hearing, safe and caring community. The current attacks on immigrants seem to be the front line of the Trump Republican Party Heritage Foundation coalition that's currently dismantling our institutions and preparing to divide the spoils between themselves. By front line, I mean where fear is palpable, basic human rights are being transgressed, and violence has begun. The administration has just started an orchestrated attack on immigrants going to and from their court hearings in a number of cities across the country. A reminder here, the House has passed the budget bill by one vote, and it includes more than $115 billion, up from $9.7 billion in 2025 for ICE. Now the bill goes to the Senate. We, you and I, are responsible for stopping its passage there. As you can see on your programs, thank you, Jillian. As you can see on your programs, we will begin with a short survey of our government's immigration system, how asylum works, and how Bianca Sierra Wolf and her team at Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights of the San Francisco Bay Area help asylum seekers. Ellie Vargas of the Bay Area Center for Immigrant Evaluations will tell us how her organization assesses people for asylum. Then we'll look at efforts to expand immigrant protections in and around California schools and hear how we can help California legislators who are planning how to pass and implement 2 school sanctuary bills. Dr. Ingrid Roberson from the California Department of Education will be our speaker. Our fourth speaker will be Sylvia Hajak from Lifelong Medical Care, which provides health services to low-income individuals and families, among them immigrants at all places on the immigration spectrum. Next, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of how to prepare immigrants to look at the current situation squarely. First, by knowing their constitutional rights so well that they can prevent avoidable arrests. And then by preparing their families should they be detained and even deported. Marisa Almore from the East Bay Sanctuary Covenant will tell us about their Know Your Rights and Family Preparedness trainings at La Peña Cultural Center in Berkeley and their other services, legal and social. That was actually Maria Mana who will do that. Marisa is from the East Bay Sanctuary Covenant. Maria Mana will tell us about their services also and include the development of the partnership with East Bay Sanctuary. Later in the program, Marisa and Maria will give us a condensed version of the trainings that they do twice monthly at La Peña. Then we'll hear about Welcome Navigator, a training that enables people to accompany, prep, and soothe immigrants before their court hearings. Tony Henley from Indivisible East Bay Immigration Action Team will tell us about her group's experiences with Welcome Navigator, and she'll mention another service they're beginning to undertake, helping immigrants complete the I-589 application for asylum. And all of these things we can be involved in. We will play a chime. I will hold the mic and say 2 minutes after 8 minutes with each speaker, and then when their 10 minutes are up, I'll say time. However, when we have breaks, Jillian, who will be introducing the speakers, will be playing a chime to let us know to come back to our seats. We are very, very packed for time. 2 bathrooms are at the back of the hall to the left, to your right, excuse me. During our first 2 breaks, there will be water and cookies on every table. During our 3rd break, after the training, we'll offer other snacks and beverages. The pen and paper that you found on your chairs are for you to jot down your questions. If we don't have time for a Q&A period, and I believe we won't, please, if you can, stay until the end of our program when you can talk privately to our speakers who will be sitting at the tables at the sides of the sanctuary. If you have to go before that, you can put your contact information on the back of your slip, address the person to whom you are asking the question, and drop your slip into the boxes on our greeting tables, and we will connect you with the speakers. Please silence your phones and let's begin. Jillian Finn will be introducing our speakers.
Okay, I'm going to be popping up and down here a bit. So, without delay, our first speaker is Bianca Sierra Wolf, and she's Executive Director at Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights of the San Francisco Bay Area. Bianca brings us 20 years of executive and legal experience. Her passion for social justice and liberation comes from her own lived experience as a woman of color and daughter of Mexican immigrants. This passion has driven her approach to positions she's held both now and previously at the California Collaboration for Immigrant Justice, California Change Lawyers, and Oakland Centro de la Raza. The first in her family to graduate from law school, Bianca holds both a law degree and a BA in International Relations from Stanford University. And Bianca currently lives in East Bay with her partner, 2 children, and her little dog, Coco.
Thank you so much, and I know I'm firmly in bear territory, so please don't hold it against me. Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to try to get through some of my slides and presentation as quickly as possible because I know we're packed for time. But if there's any questions that you have, just remember you can always visit my organization's website, lccrsf.org, and you can find more information there or find ways to reach out to us. So, Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. Let me see if this works. Perfect. So Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights of the San Francisco Bay Area, LCCR-SF, was founded in the 1960s as part of the civil rights movement. It was a call from President John F. Kennedy to take the civil rights movement from the streets into the courts. And so we were part of a Lawyers Committee movement that was designed to harness the power of the private bar, private attorneys, to provide pro bono legal assistance. We've been around since the 60s, and our mission and spirit is very much alive today. We have 3 main programs, immigrant justice, which I'll focus on, economic justice, which provides legal services for small businesses, mainly serving historically marginalized and BIPOC communities, and then our racial justice program. One of the things that we've been working on with our racial justice program is advising nonprofits on how to defend themselves and be proactive in the face of the many executive orders that have come out against DEI and racial justice programs. There we go. But I'm here today mainly to talk about our immigrant justice program. So our immigrant justice program is a little bit different in that we have two main programs. One is our asylum program, which is what we call our direct services program. This program is designed to help asylum seekers, those seeking protection here in this country. They're usually fleeing some sort of persecution, be it persecution because of their political beliefs, their religious beliefs, because of their gender, because of their sexual orientation. And so we mainly provide services to those who are in active, what we call removal, but you know as deportation proceedings. In addition to that, we also have our impact litigation program. That program is designed to actually defend the civil rights of immigrants in federal court. And so I'll talk a little bit more about those cases. But our asylum program has been around since the 1980s. Technology is not with me today, but we will figure this out. All right. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you, because it's not really working for me. Oh, there we go. There's a delay. So our asylum program, as I mentioned, has been around since the 1980s. It is a combination of in-house staff attorneys, but also pro bono attorneys. So we rely on private attorneys to also take on asylum cases. Last year, we secured asylum for over 74 clients, and I'm happy to say that we have 100% grant rate, which is amazing. We have a backlog of over 400 active cases. And part of that is that asylum cases can take a really long time. The immigration courts are incredibly backlogged. They are very understaffed, and so people can have pending asylum cases for many years. This can also make it challenging when we're trying to get pro bono attorneys because many are nervous about taking on a case where they could have a court date in 5 years. But we are really, we feel really grateful that we have been able to secure so many successes for so many clients. 100% grant rate is really great. And what we have found, study after study, has shown that particularly in deportation proceedings, individuals who are represented are 5 to 10 times more likely to win their case. So it is really important for individuals to have that legal representation. And in the last 5 years, we've been able to help over 900 women, survivors of some sort of gender-based violence, gain asylum. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about our litigation work, which I think really sort of shows the level that sort of the attacks that we are facing that are truly unprecedented. I've been in the immigrants' rights space for many, many years. I survived Trump 1.0, as we call it, continued to do this work during the Biden administration, and now we're really seeing unprecedented attacks in Trump 2.0. So as I mentioned, we do direct services, but we also do impact litigation. And with that, we currently have a case, YGH versus Donald Trump. So YGH is a 22-year-old Venezuelan farm worker who was apprehended by ICE in the Central Valley. So the reason that he was apprehended was because he supposedly was said to be part of this Venezuelan gang, which is the Tren de Agua group. The reason that this is important is because, and it's not true, but what the Trump administration has been doing is that they've been using the Aliens and Enemies Act. This is an act from 1793, so a really old, archaic act that basically says that in times of war, the president has the ability, the executive branch has the ability to deport people without any sort of due process because they are considered enemy combatants. So what they're trying to do is say that these individuals who are part of gangs are enemy combatants and can be deported with no due process. Our client was quickly apprehended, detained in the Central Valley, and then was very quickly sent to Texas with plans for them to then be deported to El Salvador, to the Seacoast prison, which, if you have not heard, is a gulag. It's a truly horrific place. Our client has no ties, nothing to El Salvador, but that was the plan. Fortunately, through our attorney's amazing work, we've been able to stop that deportation. He is still detained. Sadly, this week, one of our petitions was denied, so we're going to appeal the case. But this is just what they're doing. They're finding pretextual reasons to stop people. They're finding trumped-up ways to get them out of the country, and then sending them to countries like El Salvador and Sudan, where people have no sort of ties to get them out of the country as quickly as possible. Another case that we have is also, we are defending a Columbia student who was also ICE tried to detain and deport because she was involved in Palestinian solidarity protests. So they are saying that she is a terrorist because she was involved in these protests. These protests are protected by our Constitution. We all have a First Amendment right to freedom of speech. Fortunately, she has not been detained, and we continue to fight her case. But as you see, it is requiring us to work nonstop, to use novel casework and legal. Our attorneys are just really doing everything they can to try to prevent these terrible atrocities from happening. And so I know I'm short on time, so if we can just slide to some more slides. If we can just move forward. That's backwards. Oh, no. There we go. So,
2 minutes.
thank you. So just really quickly, I also just want to set the stage for what you're going to hear more on today, which is just our immigration system. So what is most important to remember is that immigration is part of the federal government. It's federal law. It is under the executive branch, and it is all under the Department of Homeland Security. You may have heard of Kristen Noem, who is the secretary. Yes, the puppy killer herself. She is in charge of Homeland Security, and under that is ICE, or what we know as La Migra. They're responsible for apprehending individuals. There's also U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. That's where you would file an asylum petition or citizenship. There's also CBP, Customs and Border Patrol. That's who you see at the border or in airports. And then there's the Department of Justice, which is basically the attorneys for the government. And immigration courts are under the Department of Justice. And so immigration is a federal law, but it is a civil procedure, which means it is not a crime to be undocumented. Although they will say that, it is not a crime. And it is very important to remember that state law is very different than immigration and federal law. So if we can just move forward. And just, again, this is really important when we think about sanctuary city policies and why it is so important to continue to have the separation between federal law and state law. We want our communities to be safe. We don't want people to fear local law enforcement and not report crimes because they're worried about being deported. This helps no one. And so we are continuing to see disturbing executive orders and attempts by the Trump administration to have local law enforcement work with ICE. This is something that we definitely want to continue to push against. You may have heard that some cities and counties have been threatened with having their federal funding cut for being sanctuary cities. Fortunately, there's been lawsuits that have been filed against this, and as of now, there's an injunction. But this is definitely something to keep an eye on. It is really important to make sure that our communities remain safe, and that we support sanctuary cities and counties.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And just my very last slide, because I know I'm at time, is just, a reminder that the goal of this administration is fear. And it is really important to not panic, to stay informed, to work within community, and to continue to support nonprofits. You may be wondering what's the most important thing that you can do. We need resources. And so if you can support us, if you can donate, if you can volunteer, please do so. Here's my QR code for Lawyers Committee. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bianca. So our next speaker is Ellie Vargas of the Bay Center for Immigration Evaluations. Ellie is a licensed clinical social worker. She received her bachelor's in Latin American Studies at Vassar College and her master's in social work at City University of New York, Hunter College. Ellie has always worked within communities with strong migrant populations, such as the Canal in San Rafael, the Bronx in New York, and all the way to our East Bay. Ellie now has a private psychotherapy practice in Berkeley, as well as running and operating the Bay Area Center for Immigration Evaluations. Thanks, Ellie.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, having all of us. It's nice to be here. So the Bay Area Center for Immigration Evaluations, I founded in 2013. It makes it sound fancy, but it's really just been me building this as I go. Currently, we are a collective of 6 licensed mental health clinicians, MFTs, LCSWs, psychologists, and we provide specialized mental health evaluations for legal immigration cases. It feels important to me to note that we are not an advocacy group, we're not activists, we are clinicians first, and it's important that we do clinical work that's ethical and honest, which sometimes the results of which support the attorney's claims, and sometimes they don't. We're not a part of the legal team. Clients are referred to us by immigration attorneys who believe, based on the basis of the claim they're making, that having a psychological evaluation as a piece of evidence in their case would help substantiate the claim that they're making in the legal case. We're able to accept referrals for any client who is physically located within the state of California. Despite immigration being a federal law, we are limited to our licenses, and we are licensed within the state of California. So I'm going to speak a little bit out of my scope, addressing some of the kind of legal cases that we generally tend to get referrals for. And I think of it really as kind of 2 buckets of cases. So buckets of legal immigration cases based on trauma, asylum being one of them, which was already described. There's another legal petition that undocumented immigrants are able to pursue called a U visa, which means that they are an undocumented immigrant here in the country, and they were sadly a victim or a witness to a violent crime, and reported this crime and cooperated with law enforcement in the investigation and prosecution of that crime. And in so doing, they then are eligible to apply for a legal status in this country called the U visa. So that's one example of the kind of case that we may be asked to assess the degree of psychological harm of being the victim or witness of this violent crime to help support the case. T visa is another avenue that we often get referrals for. Very similar to the U visa, but it's specifically for undocumented individuals who were victims or had knowledge of, specifically around human trafficking. And that could be sexual trafficking, it could be work trafficking. And The last one that fits in this bucket of trauma evaluations is called VAWA. It's an acronym for the Violence Against Women Act. Excuse me. And despite the name, you don't have to be a woman to qualify for this path towards documentation. So this is for individuals who are in a domestic relationship or a partner with a citizen where there's domestic violence involved, and often the status of the individual being undocumented is used as a form of power or control or coercion. And so it gives the undocumented person a chance to adjust their status with or without their documented partner, if they can prove their case. So that's one bucket. The other bucket of evaluations that we do, we colloquially call hardship evaluations. And for these particular evaluations, we're actually not assessing the undocumented individual. Let's see, I'm gonna back up. So if someone's applying to adjust their status based on a family member, it could be a spouse, it could be a parent or an adult child, and they have entered the country illegally, or they've been here for a certain amount of time illegally, the way the law is written is they must return to their country of origin while they await for the process, which could be 10 years or more. And so attorneys are able to apply for what's known as a hardship waiver if they're able to prove that the undocumented person returning to the country of origin would present undue and extreme hardship on the US citizen or legal permanent resident family member. And so our job in that case is to bring in that citizen or legal permanent resident and talk about all of the ways their life would be impacted if this family member did have to leave the country. And that could include, across various life domains, how it would impact their physical and mental health, how it would impact any financial considerations, any education, maybe they're in pursuit of higher education, or their children are involved in education. Personal considerations, including any relationships they have in this country, community ties, ages of the children that would be impacted, and other special factors, including language constraints, their religion, ethnic considerations, fear of persecution, this sort of thing. And we look at these particular cases, they're very complicated, the hardship cases, because we look at the hardships that would present if, let's say I'm the US citizen spouse, if my husband had to go back to whatever country he comes from, and I stay here, what are all the ways that impacts my life here? And then we flip it around and we do the exact same assessment. If I decide, well, I have to go with my husband, because I just feel like that's my obligation, and I go back to his country of origin with him, what are all the ways that my life is impacted by that turn of events? So these are long assessments. So like I said, we sit with whoever the referred client is for a long interview, and we produce a written report which gets included in the packet of evidence that gets sent to immigration. We do collaborate with attorneys, not on our clinical assessment, but just to ensure that what's being reported to us is the same thing that was reported to the attorney and that all the details match. So, as I said, we're not an advocacy model because we have to be very clinically sound. And one thing that has always felt really important to me is to keep our fees accessible. And so that does feel like the piece that we are able to offer. We're definitely on the lower end of the spectrum. And the other piece of the business model that I really like is it serves as a training and mentoring for clinicians who are interested in serving this community. So maybe they've never done these kinds of assessments before. They share the value of wanting to kind of work for a place that's offering this, keeping fees low for families. In exchange, I train them, they get a lot of mentoring, and they become competent in doing these evaluations. And we get to keep fees low for families.
Ellie, 2 minutes.
Thank you. I think I'm going to beat you. I have one last thing that just feels important to share that feels like what I most love about doing this work, which is that often, not always, but the lion's share of clients who come in for these evaluations have never spoken to a mental health provider before. They're often very scared, feel very stigmatized, and have often, not always, but often quite noticeable mental health symptoms, especially those that are in the trauma bucket. And so it feels like such a privilege to be these individuals' first touch with a mental health provider and to be in a position of compassionately witnessing their stories, normalizing symptoms that they may be having as completely reasonable given what they've lived through, destigmatizing mental health conditions, destigmatizing mental health care, and being able to offer some hope that they could get support, that there is treatment that could help them with these symptoms that they're struggling with. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ellie. So now I'm happy to introduce Dr. Ingrid Robertson, who is the Deputy Chief Superintendent of Public Instruction in the California Department of Education. Please.
Well, it's very good to be here today because this is food for the soul for the fight that we have. So, and I want to talk a bit about that fight, but just to give you a little bit of context, I was born in Guatemala. I was orphaned in Guatemala. I was in the orphanage for the first few years of my life, and then I was fortunate to be adopted here. And so I didn't have the same fears, but I have family and friends who have gone on this journey. So if you hear me talking passionately, that is why. And I get a little upset when we don't connect what our U.S. foreign policy has been to what we're doing now. So just want to share that because it just has a very personal resonance for me. All right, so I'm going to talk about two things. I'm going to talk about what it means to stand up for justice and then stand out for joy, because we need both of those. That is going to help us be resilient. That is going to help us be resistant. So let us remember the joy, and by the 2-minute mark, hopefully I can get to that joy part. So I joined actually the California Department of Education in January, and basically by the 21st of January, here's where the fight began. Education is under attack, if you haven't noticed. So let me just give you a little bit of a snippet of that. By January 21st, we were having to talk about protections of immigrant family rights, which is what I'm going to focus on. By January 31st, we had to send out a letter talking about affirmation of continued protections basis of gender and gender expression. By February, we were sending out notifications to the field about what a Dear Colleague letter can do and really what it can't do. By March, we were having to send out notifications to the field because funding was being cut off. We were getting notifications that we couldn't use our FERPA dollars and our COVID relief funds, 5 years, and we were given that notification within the hour of when it stopped. So just to give you a sense of that. By April, we were having to talk about executive orders around anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion directives. By May, we were on school discipline policies and student mental health. So those are the letters that we have had to send out to the field. I'm very proud to say that I get to work for a state superintendent who's unequivocal about what we stand for, that we stand up for justice. So you can find on our CDE website responses to 2025 federal actions and communications. That's very unequivocal. We are very clear to the field and to our schools, and I appreciate getting the thanks that I've heard. We say executive order is not law. You have to have an act of Congress, our executive needs to sign, and our new one is the courts need to uphold. So let's be very clear what it takes to do these things. And where our schools need to hear this, because right now they're taking executive order and thinking this is now law. So part of what CDE has done is to be very clear in the communication that the executive order, and I think someone mentioned around immigration, that those are for the executives. And I was in DC in March, and even the Secretary of Ed and her staff acknowledge that those orders are for them, not for our schools. So they acknowledge that, though that's not how it's portrayed in the media or by themselves. So what does it mean to stand up for justice? So on January 21st, just a day later, we sent a communication out to the field to remind them that they have an obligation to protect immigrant family rights. And to give you a sense in the state of California, if we take this room right here, half right here of our students are from immigrant families, half. And if I were to take sort of a slice right here, 1 in 5 are from mixed status families. But please understand, even though it's about 20%, 93% of those students are US citizens. So let me say that again, right? Even though 20% are of mixed family status, immigration status, that 93% of those students are US citizens. So they have rights, even beyond what's happening for education. And just to give you a sense, it's only about 300,000 of the students that are undocumented. That's gonna right-size how folks are thinking of our schools and what's happening there. We also reminded the field that 1982, Plyer versus Doe, actually enshrined, right, judicially, that students have a right to a public education irrespective of their immigrant status. And for California, we have Ed Code 220 and 234 that basically says the same thing as California. So what are we doing as the California Department of Ed? So we've got SB 48 that has been authored by Senator Gonzalez. SB 48 says that you cannot have ICE. I like to move when I'm talking. ICE cannot come to our schools. Right? Oh, sorry, take that. Oh, is it? Oh, is that what's happening? Okay, good to know. So ICE cannot come to our schools. What we're trying to have happen is that schools, unless there's a judicial warrant, so not an administrative warrant, right, a judicial warrant, that's a different standard, that's the only way they would be allowed. And that they would not give any information, that they would not produce a student, right, under this request and direct them to the administrator, and that they would not have access to any non-public areas of the schools. There are public areas to schools that the public is allowed to access. Originally, when we went for this, and this is sponsored by our state superintendent, we were trying to have a 1-mile safety zone. We found out that there are public access pieces that we're not going to be able to override, unfortunately. And so now SB 48 is trying to make our schools truly safe havens. And some of you who may have heard me speak before, if you remember back to when you were a student, think back to the playground. Think back to lining up for recess, right? Think back to walking to school. And you had a sense of safety, I hope, and a sense of belonging. And now imagine people coming in uniforms, coming for one of your friends that you play with. And so we really contend that we need to keep schools safe. So what can you do? Well, let me mention a couple other things that I hope, in terms of standing up for justice. We're in a lot of multi-state lawsuits. I can't talk too much about them because they're active lawsuits, but everywhere that we can, with states that have similar core values, we are making sure we're using the judicial system. And I have never been more thankful for the Administrative Procedures Act or the Paperwork Reduction Act, because what's been happening is that procedures have not been followed. So there can be change, but it needs to follow a process, and that is not happening. So everywhere that we can, we're using our judicial means, our lawsuits, to do these multi-state lawsuits, and that's coming from the Attorney General, just so you know. So it isn't CDE, Department of Ed, but coming from our Attorney Generals, and we're probably at nearly a dozen at this point that are education specific because we've been under attack. What can you do? Please call your representatives around SB 48. We're really looking to get this passed. We don't want this to be optional to be a sanctuary city or a safe haven school district. Berkeley, you're doing great. I used to be at Alameda County Office of Ed. I've done OUSD, SFUSD in the Bay Area. We're really good about this. So celebrate it where you can, share the best practices so other districts can follow. But on SB 48, yes, please call your representative. It's at a third reading right now, and we're getting down to the last couple of weeks of our legislative cycle. So definitely that can be a support so that districts don't opt in. And then I'll end with, I did it. Stand out in joy. So Berkeley, you do this really well. We're really promoting dual language immersion because we want to celebrate being a multicultural, multilingual society. That is our value. We live in a global world. And so while we're fighting, we want to make sure we're celebrating. And so as you can celebrate those dual language immersion programs, it really does make our families feel a sense of belonging, a sense of safety. It really enriches, it's a win-win. And so we're right now in the process for the next budget year to ask for $100 million so we can expand the number of dual language immersion programs throughout the state. Right now we're at about 1,100. We'd like to get to 1,600. So where you can help request for the funding so that we are still standing out in joy, that's going to help us maintain the fight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ingrid. And now rounding out our first panel, we have Sylvia Hassai, who is the Director of Communications and Development for Lifelong Medical Care. Her career has centered on leading strategic communications for nonprofits, foundations, and corporations. Among her notable involvements have been the founding of the AmeriCorps National Service Program, which sadly, I believe, has just been canceled, senior management at the nonprofit Save the Children, and establishment of the National Commission on Children and Disasters. Currently, she's serving her third term as an elected official in the town of Kensington. Sylvia.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here with you. I am thrilled that we are having these conversations because we have been having them since, as folks have highlighted, January 21st of this year. And it's great to see people who are, willing to be part of helping everyone resist all kinds of actions, especially things that are happening around immigration, which are, in my opinion, horrific. Yeah, I really do. It's really awful. I mean, it is disappearing people, and it's awful. So Lifelong Medical Care is a federally qualified health center. So the first thing I need to tell you is, what is a federally qualified health center? Commonly known as a community health center, and it's a nonprofit community-directed healthcare provider. We are also linked to the founding of the civil rights movement because the Civil Rights Act of 1964 explicitly prohibited recipients of federal funds from discriminating on the basis of race, color, or national origin. And shortly thereafter, FQHCs were established as part of President Johnson's war on poverty. So that's a little bit about how FQHCs came to be. And some of the most important characteristics are that we are nonprofit and community directed. We, by mandate, have to have at least 51% of our board be patients. So that's an excellent quality. We offer comprehensive care. It's affordable. We do receive a large portion of our funding from the Department of Health and Human Services under the Health Resources and Services Administration, also called HRSA. We are national. We have a national network, and we are really part of the safety net. When folks remember the conversations around safety net providers, that's us. So based on our founding and how we were established, we have always served immigrant populations. This is not new. The undocumented population, we have gotten reimbursed for since the expansion of Medicaid and Medi-Cal in California explicitly allowed for provision and reimbursement of services to undocumented. But we are not able to turn anyone away for their inability to pay. So one way or another, we will have to serve them. Just a little bit of local history. We were founded here in Berkeley in 1976 by the Gray Panthers, who were very concerned about the care given to older seniors as the Over 60 Health Center on San Pablo Avenue. And we now have our Over 60 Health Center on Sacramento at the corner of Alcatraz. And in the 1990s, we grew fairly rapidly by combining with other centers. We moved to be giving health care to all ages at all stages of life in the 90s, and so our name was changed to Lifelong Medical Care from the Over 60 Health Center. Regarding our population, 37% of our 50,000 plus patients are better served in a language other than English. Our website has the ability to be translated in 10 languages. Just on the side, you click the button of what language you want. So we are also about giving access to care. That's what we're trying to reduce, the barriers to care. So we have experts who are dedicated to enrollment and eligibility. When somebody comes in, if they are not enrolled in any service they are eligible for, we will make sure that they can be enrolled. And an example of something like that related to an undocumented immigrant recently was a man coming in to our urgent care in Richmond with the symptoms of a heart attack. And he didn't want to go to the hospital in the emergency room because he wasn't covered. And his wife and our specialists were able to convince him to enroll in Medi-Cal, to not be afraid to do that. And they took care of it by the time he left Lifelong and was going over to the emergency room, which is at Kaiser Richmond, just almost across the street. They were able to get all of that done so that he was having a heart attack, and he was covered because he was convinced not to be afraid to enroll, and because we had someone able to enroll him in a benefit that he was eligible for. So we provide comprehensive services, primary care, urgent care, mental health, dental care. We have school-based health centers. We have homeless services, which include respite care, which means someone who's homeless and comes out of the hospital isn't going to be put back on the street. And from there, they're able to potentially get into other housing options. We have street medicine and dental vans. We have a drop-in services site, and we do a lot of supportive housing services. So we're located in these transitional and other kinds of shelters and providing support services to keep people moving in the right direction. Another thing about Lifelong that's different and interesting and relates to sort of immigration and immigrant populations is that we are a teaching institution. We actually have a family medicine residency program and other programs to help address serious shortcomings and shortages in just primary care professionals and healthcare professionals. So we have an emphasis on trying to recruit people of color and people of various backgrounds in the family medicine residency program. We had an example of a woman who was from Oakland. She was an Ethiopian American, and she finished our program as a family medicine doctor. We have a joint program with Berkeley City College to train community health workers, a nurse practitioner fellowship, and behavioral health graduate student field placements. And we try really hard to recruit folks who speak Spanish, and we know it makes a huge difference in how they receive care and how they feel when they're being treated. So that is a lot about Lifelong, about how we serve the immigrant population, and we have already been impacted by cuts. The AmeriCorps program was a great example. We had run one of the longest running programs in maybe the US and certainly California, 27 years, something called the AmeriCorps Health Fellows Program, and we were told on a Sunday night to cease all activities the next day. Very disruptive, especially to some of our efforts in reaching out to Spanish language speaking populations and getting them to be part of, we have a lot of group work, healthy eating work groups and other types of groups, and trying to recruit patients to join those groups. That work has now really slowed because it was done by an AmeriCorps Health Fellow. We have been bullied around the language issues. I mean, they're telling us not to use, health disparities, health equity, gender affirming care. I mean, in some cases, the word women. I mean, you read the papers, it's insane. It's like trying to tell you the sky is not the sky and the water's not the water. And I love hearing how, executive orders are not law, and we have to resist these efforts. So the real danger for lifelong and FQHCs is what happens around the bill, the Medicaid cuts to that bill, because it's a big part of our funding. It's not all of our funding, but it's a very, very important piece of it. We also have been through trainings about protecting our patients, the idea of a judicial warrant versus any other kind of warrant, private areas that, the public and therefore law enforcement without a warrant is not allowed to go to. We have so far not experienced this, but it is, it's a risk, it's a danger, of course. And so we've been training our staff on that too.
Sylvia, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can tell you. I think you get the picture, right? Yeah. How can people help? I have to say, like the first speaker, for us, it's donations. We have lost a lot of funding with the AmeriCorps. We anticipate losing more, honestly. Even if it's not, whatever version of the bill it is, it's not going to be good. So looking at our website, Lifelong Medical Care, it's actually lifelongmedical.org. There's a place to donate, and I'll be here with more information, and that is the easiest way to help us right now. So thank you very much again for your time and your attention. I look forward to speaking with you, some of you during the break.
Thank you, Sylvia. And I just have to say, very proudly, I worked for Lifelong for 20 years, only recently retired, so I can certainly endorse what she's saying there. We now have a 10-minute break, do we not, Betsy? Okay, so please be cognizant of the time, and we are going to, you want me to do this now? Okay, you're going to hear this when you're supposed to come back. Now, hang on, they've told me exactly how to do it. Hold your palm. Would you hear that? Yeah? Okay, cool. So that'll be your signal to please come back. Okay, we've got a full program. It's just excellent.
I think it works now. Yeah, we're going to test it right now.
Okay.
No? This is working. Yeah.
So where do I point it? Towards you?
See that little stalk of antennas there? Right there. Yeah, it was down on the ground, down on the desk, so I raised it up for the previous class. Turn this off. So you have to just turn it on.
Was Bianca's talk useful?
Extreme.
I'm sure. And
Very, very,
They all were, but
They all
I didn't get hers.
Okay.
What did she tell you?
Well, she did a slideshow, and she was.
Are we
I
on?
think one of the things was explaining how immigration comes under federal, under the executive.
Oh, I saw that. I
sort of
took a
stuff.
picture of that.
Yeah,
I was
it was a lot of
real.
it. And
I
also
wanted to thank her
what's
for
under
that.
attack right now, how immigrants are being treated, ICE and what it's doing, a couple of cases of people that they're working with.
Yeah. Yeah. They all brought great case examples. I really appreciated that so much. 2 minutes. Okay.
Okay, 2 minutes. Oh, yeah, no, that's really helpful that you have that and that you're sitting down there. It's great. Now, the only thing is, I'm just going to have to watch that, okay? The only way I can tell 2 minutes is there. I don't have a time.
I don't
with
have
me.
mine either.
But maybe, I don't know. Do you have a watch or something with you?
Well, let's see. It's already been 30
Can I just
seconds,
generally
right?
think, oh, it's
Yeah,
about
just-
2 minutes?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, okay.
We'll go sit with Andrew. Thank you. Your introductions are so
You're okay with what?
concise and boiled and lovely. Uh-oh.
Look what I did. I just broke the damn thing. Pardon me. Well,
This is precisely why.
is it going to cut?
I'll deal with this.
Thank you, Betsy.
Yeah.
Okay. Wasn't that a pretty sound? Could we have all the speakers up at the table, please? We need Marissa, Maria, and Tony. What? No, I didn't. Who did? Maybe Margaret did. No, are you sure? Did we? No, I didn't. Oh, well, that's good. Whoever the good fairy was, I'm glad they did. Okay, ladies. Thanks, everybody, for coming back so quickly and settling down. That's great. So opening our second panel of experts, we have Marissa Almor from East Bay Sanctuary Covenant. Originally from Barcelona, Marissa Almor is a recent UC Berkeley graduate specializing in international migration and global poverty and practice. After our opening second panel years teaching foreign languages, her passion for social change and empowering migrants led her to become a migratory rights activist and political representative for émigrés like herself in Brussels, Belgium, with the Spanish party Podemos. Since 2022, she has worked as a community organizer at the East Bay Sanctuary and has been leading their Know Your Rights campaign since January. She's also the mother of 4 wonderful adult children and 1 fabulous cat. Important to know.
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad you're all here. I want to start by thanking the Berkeley Fellowship of Universalist Unitarians, or is it? Yes, right, I said it right, for hosting this amazing event. I think you're going to have the opportunity to see how it all ties up. The first section of the panel, you saw the different fields where they are working. and you're going to understand what we're doing and what I'm going to tell you about. So in January, actually, EBSC and most other organizations that provide legal services and do community organizing, which is what my department does, we started preparing before the election. The California Immigrant Policy Center started, having post-election scenarios, just in case, right? And we started talking. So it was great because we didn't start working January 21st. We started working November 10th. And then you're going to meet someone from the Friends of La Peña Immigration Rights Committee. And that's one of the things that also happened before January 21st. So unfortunately, we were afraid of what was going to happen, and we jumped immediately onto it. We worked on the resolution, or reaffirming the Berkeley resolution to be a sanctuary city, because it's happened so many times, right? And with the years, whenever it's become necessary, we've reaffirmed that need. And we did it on January 21st. So that was symbolic that, so many organizations, we are determined to defend immigrants. And we are very lucky to be here in Berkeley, because even the Berkeley, the mayor has a sanctuary task force, of which I'm part. And I can say that the mayor and several council members are totally on our side. So it's really helpful. I feel for all those jurisdictions where they don't have this support. So as a person, as a lead in Know Your Rights, we started by saying, okay, we need to train as many people as possible. This constitutional rights knowledge needs to be common knowledge. And I can be a witness to that. With the Friends of La Peña at La Peña Cultural Center, we've already done 9 workshops. And during the first one, we would say, what would you do if ICE showed at your door? And the answer is very different now from what it was at the beginning. Everybody at the beginning admitted that they would open the door, that they would obey. Now you ask the same questions and people tell you, do not open the door. So it's great that, the knowledge is out there, and that's what each one of us has to make sure that that knowledge is out there. And it's not enough with knowing it yourself. You need to share that information with everyone you know. Make sure that everyone you know has been trained. I equate our Know Your Rights training to first aid training. At this point, I think it is just as necessary. And if you've had it before, you need a refresher so that this becomes second nature, like driving, You haven't done it for a while, but you just take a refresher and you realize, okay, yeah, I'm ready. If they were to come, I know what to say. So another challenge we had, and you saw it in the first part of the panel, was the first concern we had were schools, right? And schools really panicked in a way and just started requesting events. And it was very satisfying to see that most school districts were very quick to adopt a protocol to keep the children safe. So that's been a relief for all of us that work in Know Your Rights, knowing that at least we know that there are protocols in place that are going to make things hard for ICE here. Then the next situation was healthcare. And I want to commend Lifelong care centers, because I'm working with a committee of people on ensuring that all healthcare facilities are well-informed, all staff are well-informed on Know Your Rights, and Lifelong has done everything and more to even their security guards have been trained. So I want a round of applause for Lifelong. Then our next frontier is Know Your Rights at the workplaces. And we were going to have a meeting this Thursday. I don't know if it's changed, but thanks to the Berkeley Sanctuary Task Force, with the assistance of the mayor's personnel. They've helped us convene business leaders, Chamber of Commerce and several business leaders, to see how we can approach this in a systematic way and make sure that everyone is trained on what to do at their workplace. So this has it's got its drawbacks in the sense that we want to do a lot, but do we have the manpower? Obviously, East Bay Sanctuary doesn't have it. And that's where Friends of La Peña Immigration Rights plays a huge role. They are acting as a sort of a clearance house for volunteers. So if you know of anyone that wants to be a volunteer and help in any way, always direct them to Friends of La Peña, because they are going to be the ones telling you, okay, this is what's available to do. You want to do this or you want to do that, right? So we're going to need, big workforce, let's say, to make sure that all people working in restaurants, factories, everywhere are protected, and that both immigrants and allies know what to do should, I show up. Because it's really important that we're not only training immigrants, we're training allies and immigrants, because, we need to be there needs to be solidarity, right? And so that's our next frontier, I call it. But as a whole, you can see, from many different sectors, we are doing everything we can to support immigrants. And now the worst part is coming from the fact that people that are meeting their, obligations towards the immigration courts and showing up for immigration court appointments are being detained. So by, respecting the law, they are being detained. And, the government representatives are the ones not respecting the law. We're living a very strange moment. Let's just call it fascism and dictatorship, because that's what it is. So resistance is a moral obligation, I think. And one aspect that is going to require a lot of people also is accompaniment. So if, here at the Berkeley Fellowship of Universalist Unitarians, you can form a committee of, specialized in accompaniment, that would be great. And part of accompaniment and helping families is preparing a family preparedness plan, which is something that we all should have, because of the big one. If it were to happen tomorrow, is not just having water, is, if you have minor children or disabled relatives, it needs to, be exactly know what to do with these people that are more vulnerable, right? So we need people helping encourage families to prepare a family preparedness plan. And we did a workshop here on April 12th. It was a success. We trained 36 people. And we are going to have an event, that it's important to mention for the community in the Fruitvale. And a lot of those people that were trained in this very building are going to be helping families at that event on June 22nd. So little by little, all the pieces of the puzzle are fitting together. And I think we are doing a good job of collaborating. I think we are so much more coordinated than during Trump 1.0. And I think people know that there's a necessity, and it happened immediately. It happened in a very organic and spontaneous way that people said, let's get together and see what we can do. So I encourage everyone to realize that each one of us can do something, find out what that is, and just, it's a very good way to resist and a very good way to stay sane in this situation. And I'm going to give my remaining minute to Maria.
Thank you. Yes, and Maria is next. And Maria Mana from Friends of La Peña Immigrant Rights Committee. 50 years ago, Maria was a volunteer in the Chile Solidarity Movement, encouraging Americans to pressure our government to demand the Chilean dictatorship respect human rights in Chile. Today she's working, yeah, give her a hand. That's a great history. Today she's working with the Friends of La Peña Immigrant Rights Committee to share with Americans and immigrants what our constitutionally protected rights are to confidently and calmly face an encounter with an ICE agent.
Hello. We've heard from wonderful speakers representing organizations with a long trajectory, 20, 30, 40 years. I'm coming from a very new, young organization. As Marisa said, in December, her organization, Each Bay Sanctuary, sent 3 representatives to a group of Friends of La Peña. We are people who have supported La Peña Cultural Center since its beginning over the last 50 years. And their presentation was so well done about what they do, all the kinds of efforts that they do benefiting the immigrants in the East Bay of this wonderful Bay Area, that we decided we needed to do something. We were concerned about what was going to happen with the next government, and so we set up Friends of La Peña Immigrant Rights. We are not La Peña, we are a separate organization, we're all volunteers, and since then, we have been doing a lot of work. And our main objective is getting the word out that we all are protected by the same rights that American citizens are protected. Immigrants, no matter what their status are protected by the 4th and 5th Amendment of our U.S. Constitution. And they need to know it, and we need to know it. So we have to be out in the community. We are an activist organization. We run on a shoestring budget, and we are doing this work because we value what the immigrants provide for us in California. You may have read in the papers that California is now the 4th largest economy in the world. We overcame Japan a month ago in statistics. And the reason we are, in great part, is because of the contribution of immigrants. They make up over 33% of our labor force, and undocumented immigrants account for 9%. So the fact that this government is going against immigrants is both senseless, stupid, and cruel. And if we share an understanding of the role that they're playing and the vital contributions that they're making, we need to stand by them. And there are many ways to do so. Our main way is educational, and we provide direct support. So we offer Know Your Rights workshops. We organize them, and Marisa from East Bay Sanctuary and some of her staff come and they provide the workshop. But we get the people there, and some of you may have attended the workshops.
Raise your hand.
La Peña got a grant recently, and so we will now be offering 2 workshops monthly. And we have been had wonderful turnouts. We've given the workshops to over 1,000 people so far since January, and basically what Marisa does is she shares what their rights are. Today, later on in the second half of this program, she's going to give a shorter version, so we encourage you to come for the longer version to La Peña to learn what everyone's rights are and how to protect ourselves in the event of an encounter with ICE. Okay. In our short history, we've done quite a lot. We have a website, we have a newsletter, we join other organizations to oppose and fight against the abuses against immigrants that the government is carrying out. We are fighting against the establishment of a detention center in Dublin, so we've sent people there for twice. We are training volunteers to give a version of Marisa's workshop today to their networks, to their families, to their communities. We're training people to offer, as Marisa said, to offer coaching directly, one-on-one, to immigrants. We do need bilingual people for that, but we are training them to work one-on-one with immigrants to help them prepare in the event of a detention by ICE, what will happen to their children. But one of our most successful events and projects is our Red Card campaign. And what this means is that since January, people in our organization and volunteers that have signed up at our workshops go out into the communities in Berkeley and Oakland. We have 2 locations in Berkeley, one on 4th Street, across the street from a Pete's, and on Saturday and Sunday, people go and man a table and give out red cards and yellow cards. Marisa will talk to you about these important cards. And we have, this is a red card, and this is a yellow card, and the red card indicates to each holder of a red card what his or her rights are, protected by our Constitution. The yellow card is for you if you happen to observe an encounter with ICE. You have the right to film it, videotape it on your phone. You have the right to ask the agent to provide his or her badge number. They may not do it, but you have the right to ask. And after the encounter, you should call immediately the number of the county that you have done this, have observed this encounter, and tell them, I was on the corner of Cedar and Bonita Street in Berkeley, and a minute ago, an ICE agent detained someone. This is the information that I collected, and I'm going to send you a video. This information will be collected by people who staff these rapid response offices, and they will get the information out to immigration attorneys that will start the ball rolling to try to protect the individual, try to find the individual who's been detained, the family members, and get them the services that they need. Pardon? Yes. Say that again, build up a case? Build up a case against the infractions that they might have committed. Exactly. One of the things that Marisa will teach us about is that there are certain procedures that ICE has to follow, and many times they don't follow them. So it's important to know what these required procedures are, so that if they're not followed, then we can report them. The ICE agent didn't do this, or the ICE agent did that, which is illegal.
Maria, 2 minutes.
So we also have a table every weekend at College in Ashby, and we have a table in the Fruitvale district on weekends. But we would like to encourage you either to join us in our efforts and sign up to do red card tabling with us, or to use your own initiative. This organization, the Unitarian Universalists, can set up their own program. We will provide guidance on how to do it. Someone in our organization can call one of your members, give you orientation, and you can get the red and yellow cards from us. And all you need is a card table, maybe a poster, that we can provide, and you can do it yourself. It's very effective. We've met wonderful people. People are receptive, and it's another way of getting the word out. We need the ICE is hitting home. In the last month, ICE has come closer. One of their tactics recently that was reported in Berkeley side is that they sent ICE agents to homes under the pretext of doing a welfare check, and to find out if the immigrant children are being well cared for. Well, the real purpose is to intimidate detained immigrants. And a woman who attended one of our workshops stated to the reporter of Berkeley side that having attended our workshop gave her the confidence and the knowledge she needed to competently answer questions and not answer questions that she didn't need to answer. So they're very effective, and we encourage you to come, and as Melissa said, come more than once. I would also encourage you to go online, and you can find Know Your Rights workshops every week being taught online. This week I followed my second one, offered by lawyers in a Bakersfield legal office for the California State University system. And so it's another way of getting up-to-date information, because every day these executive orders are changing, every day their practices are changing, but the government still is not detaining the numbers they want. This year, before the year is out, Trump has said they want to detain 1 million people. They haven't nearly reached that, although they've done some horrible things. So it's going to magnify, and we need more people out there in the communities protecting immigrants.
Thank you, Maria.
Oh, okay. I forgot to say, we've distributed at least 15,000 cards a month, so almost 100,000 cards. And
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maria. And now the last speaker on this panel is Tony Henley from Indivisible's East Bay Immigration Action Team. Tony says she's a lifelong Chicagoan. Is that the correct pronunciation? With a master's in urban planning from U of Illinois, Chicago. Tony and her husband moved to the East Bay in 2016 because her adult children live here. I can kind of relate to that move. While in Chicago, she worked for a women's organization, Women Employed, on workforce development policy for 10 years. Tony joined Indivisible East Bay in 2017, currently leading the Indivisible East Bay Welcome Team and co-lead of the direct support work group of their Immigration Action Team. So Tony loves dogs and has a 4-year-old very happy Welsh Springer Spaniel, and she loves to get together with other people for long walks.
Tony, you can also ask Paul you can say next, and Paul will advance them.
So, okay. Indivisible East, yes, I'm Tony. I've been a member of Indivisible East Base. I've been a member of, that sounds better, Indivisible East Bay since 2017, and things have ramped up, as everybody knows, this time around. In December, Indivisible polled its members, and we decided that we needed 3 action teams around the areas that we thought the Trump administration was going to be the most harmful and where we could have an impact. One of them was climate change, another one was women's bodily autonomy and LGBTQ rights and healthcare, all together, and immigration. And I've been a member of the Immigration Action Team since we formed it. On the immigration team, we started from the place that we wanted to do what immigrant rights organizations needed from us. And so the first time was spent developing partnerships, local partnerships. We were at La Peña for some of the training. We heard Marissa speak in the Know Your Rights training. And we then have met two organizations, and let's see if this will work. Okay, Paul, please. All right, the two organizations that we have worked with are the Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity, IM4HI, and the Contra Costa Immigrants' Rights Alliance. And along with CCIJ, the California Coalition for Immigrant Justice, they have a legal empowerment program in Contra Costa, and IM4HI works in other places as well, but the one that I'm talking about today, I know you all are in Alameda. There is no immigration court in Alameda County. Contra Costa County has one, and there's a court in San Francisco and an immigration court in Sacramento. But it doesn't matter what county you live in, you can still actually do this training. So let's see, could we have the second slide, Paul? Thank you. So those organizations have formed a program called Welcome Navigator, and we decided that this was a real area that we could do a contribution in. It helps guide newly arrived immigrant families and asylum seekers through the court system. They give basic directions. These are all volunteers in the court. They connect migrants to the attorney of the day for free consultations. They are courtroom observers and a friendly face in a time of great fear. So we go through a training that our two organizations developed, and so far 9 IEB members have completed the training, and of those 7 have done a volunteer shift or more. It consists of either a morning or an afternoon, and you sign up to go to the court and work with a team of 1 or 2 or 3 people. And you sit in the courtroom, you observe what's going on. Bilingual people obviously are the most valuable. About 75% of the immigrants in having hearings at the Concord Immigration Court are Spanish speaking and primarily monolingual in Spanish and sometimes other native languages as well. The court does provide training, but they do not provide lawyers. Unlike with a citizen where you have the right to be represented in court, immigration, you do not have the right to get an attorney provided for you. So we need bilingual, not necessarily the attorneys of the day, it's helpful if you're bilingual, but we're very much in need of those attorneys. But what we can do is to be there and help. We give a resource guide to people who are at court for the hearings, and we also answer basic questions. Where is their courtroom? Have they filed an immigration, an asylum application? Are they in the process of that? So as a monolingual English speaker, I make sure to volunteer with a bilingual volunteer. So that, for instance, when that person leaves, we're sitting in the courtroom, we're listening to the judge give information to people and also to put them under oath and get them to attest to these facts about the day that they were detained at the border, et cetera. Then that person, the bilingual person, will go out and attempt to connect them with the attorney of the day if they don't already have an attorney, which most people do not. And as the English speaker, I can remain in the courtroom and take notes about what's going on with the case that the person who's had to leave the room cannot be there for. So there are roles for you as a English-only speaker. Your contribution is greater if you're able to communicate with people. We have put together a useful phrases document, but it's great for you saying it, but when someone responds to you, of course, you really have no idea. You can't really have a back and forth conversation, so it's extremely basic. We have some other, let me just make sure I've kind of covered things here. Oh, just the logistics of it. The Concord Court, I live in El Cerrito. It's about a half an hour from my home. It's perhaps a 15 or 20-minute walk from the closest BART station, so generally people try to drive. And it's a shift that's either starts from 8 and goes from 8:30 in the morning to noon, or from 1 o'clock to about 4:30. And it's extremely well, the recruitment of volunteers and signing up is very well organized. We just got the calendar for June from one of our organizations, and you just sign up. You can find a person who's bilingual, and you put your name down, and then you just show up for the court hearing. I just want to mention that Indivisible East Bay has other immigration action teams. One of them is Rapid Response. Direct Support is the one that does the Welcome Navigator. We also have an education team and local sanctuary advocacy as well to promote sanctuary policies at the cities in the East Bay.
Tony, 2 minutes.
Okay, so I think this is about, I'm going to be over at the table there. If you are interested in volunteering and getting trained, which the training is actually 2 things. You watch 2 videos on your own time of a total about an hour and a half, and they send you the link, so it's extremely easy to do at your own time. And then you attend a courtroom tour that's led by one of the organizations, someone from IM4HI, and there you get to sit in on a courtroom. You get to find out where the bathrooms are and where the screen is up at the, to tell you where the courtroom's located and the name of the judge. As people know, ICE has been in these hearings. I personally have not seen ICE at the Concord Court, but they have been at the Concord Court and have arrested at least one person that I'm aware of, and that was right at about a week and a half ago, 10 days ago, that happened. Since then, the CCIRA, the Immigrants' Rights Alliance, have put together instructions for us about what to do if ICE is in the courtroom, and we've had a Zoom call with that kind of information. So they're responding immediately, the community organizations are immediately responding to the threat to people that are in immigration court. So we need to know what our rights are in terms of approaching the agents, getting the information if that were to happen. there are these flyers so that if you're interested in the Welcome Navigator program, you can, there's the QR code, gives you a little bit of the information in writing that I was just talking about. And if you are interested in, this was unscripted here, but if you're interested in Indivisible East Bay, you can come over to the table, pick up a quarter sheet. Again, there's a QR code there, and we're having our membership meeting next Sunday at 1 o'clock at Live Oak Park in Berkeley, outdoors, very fun. And then there's the big, I hope a lot of you have heard of it, June 14th, No Kings March and Rally in Oakland. There will be speakers, there will be music, it will be fun, and we will really, I think, get a lot out of being together with other people. So thank you very much. Okay.
And let's have a round of applause for our three speakers here, please. Whoa, so much information, huh? So much dedication, too. So we now have another 10-minute break, and as before, now I trust you will hear the chimes, so I'm not going to experiment again. So take your break, and it'd be lovely if you could come back and settle down in 10 minutes as you did last time, and after that, we have our training. Thank you.
Services lawyer
I think it would be great if you could play about how to put something like this together. I nearly said, come on to it. You able to lift yourself. Only do nothing else.
2 minutes.
Did you get it?
Okay, everybody. Time to get ready for the next exciting part of the program. That's okay. We have time. Coming and sitting there. You were deep in conversation. Okay, folks, and I really mean it this time. Please.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for going back to your seats. We're going to start with the workshop on Know Your Rights, what to do if you encounter ICE, or what to do, if ICE is interacting with someone else. Bottom first. Bottom is forward. This is a bad slide. There you go. Oh, no, I'll be fine. Thank you, Jill. Thank you. So it's important that you understand that the main thing that immigrants can do, and everybody can do to avoid detention and removal, deportation, the best tool is knowing one's rights. Because you are not providing any assistance or anything for ICE agents to go with. And so in most cases, they end up breaking the law because you are not cooperating. And the fact that they're breaking the law helps your case. So that's why it's so important that everyone that might be liable of being detained knows how important it is to know your rights very well so that it's second nature, right? If you want to get involved and you want to be a presenter because you do have different interest groups that you could do the presentation for, or you want to do it in your neighborhood, you have contacts with the immigrant community, for example, that would be wonderful if you could do in a private home, small workshops. We need everybody to spread the knowledge, okay? So that's the point of all this. Let me see. So if you want to become a presenter, please contact us or Friends of La Peña, and we will help you get there. An important reminder is that I'm not an attorney. I'm just a community organizer, so certain questions I will not be able to answer. Some of them I can because I've heard them many times and we have the information. Make sure that you are not speaking of a precise or specific case in public. If you have somebody's case that you really would like to discuss with me, do it so after the presentation. And during the presentation, any questions that may arise, please note them down so that we can deal with them at the end. All right, so who is the who are the East Bay Sanctuary Covenant? It's a nonprofit organization with over 40 years of experience advocating for immigrants. We were born out of the sanctuary movement that was born during the 80s after the death of Monsignor Romero in El Salvador, when we had a huge influx of immigrants, or refugees rather, from El Salvador, Nicaragua, Guatemala. You know, they had civil conflicts started by guess who. And you know, they were coming here, and the official narrative was that they were economic migrants. Sounds familiar? So that's how the sanctuary movement was born, and people decided that the moral thing to do was to resist and provide sanctuary to those people that really had all the right to come and seek sanctuary. We are specialized also. We do have a team of Maya Mam speakers to serve the 60,000 member Mayan community in Oakland. Okay, so first of all, the constitutional rights are for everyone, because in the Constitution it talks about persons. It doesn't talk about citizens, it doesn't talk about individuals, it just says persons. So if you're a person in the US, you have constitutional rights. So they're for everybody. When we started these workshops in January, I was talking about, you know, how to help immigrants. Now I think it's important that, you know, how to help immigrants and ourselves. Who knows what's going to happen? Why is it so important? Because it really has been proven that knowing your rights and exercising your constitutional rights is the best way to avoid detention and eventually deportation. A huge percentage of the people that get detained talked too much. It's been proven. So remaining silent is still the best course of action. So I always say in these workshops, if you leave here with just 3 ideas or 3 things that you remember, 3 takeaways, let it be those 3. The right to remain silent, and that's where the red cards come into play, because you don't even have to say anything at all. You just hand out a red card. Why do we recommend that you do not say anything at all? Because sometimes starting a conversation or being polite or abiding by what you're being told, it opens the door to you making a mistake. If you don't say anything, there are no mistakes. In Spanish, we say, en boca cerrada no entran moscas. Yeah, in a closed mouth, no flies will go in. Yucky, yeah? And then another important one is that you do have the right to speak with an attorney and not sign anything until you do. Doesn't mean that you get assigned an attorney, but you do have the right to speak to an attorney, and they have to provide you that opportunity. And if they don't, they're breaking the law. So it's, you know, something that you can use later on against them. And also, this is probably the right that it's less known to many people, is that you have the right to not open the door at all unless someone comes with a search warrant. And it has to be a judicial search warrant. So basically, no one can come into your house without that document. That document is a key if it's the correct document. Without that, even if the police has an arrest order for you, they cannot come in. You can just stay in your house and be locked up for forever, and they don't have the right to come in legally unless they get that search warrant, okay? They usually do, you know, if they don't have it, they go back and they get it. So how can we exercise our rights? By speaking them into existence. Undocumented immigrants are convinced that they have no rights whatsoever, most of the time. So also culturally, they've been sort of taught that the polite thing to do is just, you know, lower your head and, you know, be respectful and talk quietly. And, you know, it's very difficult for them to imagine that they can stand up to the police and that they can defend their position, let's say. They have what's called indefensión aprendida, right? They feel like they're so vulnerable that they already feel defeated before starting anything. So it's really important to tell them, no, you do have these rights. Maybe you don't have others, but these rights, you have them because anyone that's in this country right now has them. And those are the rights to remain silent. So for them, it's hard to say that. And I'm going to prove it to you because we're going to say this. And you will see what it feels like to speak those rights. So let's say it after me. I have the right to remain silent. I will not sign any documents. I will not open the door without a warrant signed by a judge. Yes, it's actually an act of defiance because you've been taught that law enforcement needs to be respected, right? And so asserting your rights feels like you are doing something rebellious, right? Imagine for immigrants who feel like they really can't do anything. So it's important that we tell them, you need to know that this is your power. So there are different types of encounters with ICE depending on the location, and we're going to go over them. So when ICE comes to your home and at your door, right? That's one situation. What would you normally do? And this is what I was talking about. In January, people, I would ask, what would you do? And many people said, open the door, not sure. Nowadays, it's a lot more well-known, thanks to, the press also, echoes this information. And people know you don't have to open the door. You are not obliged to open the door. You can tell them that they do not have permission to enter your home. And if they insist, you tell them, okay, do you have a judicial warrant? Because that would be the only way I would let you in, right? That's my family. So for people who might not even speak the language, it's really useful to have those red cards. And that's why we encourage people to have more than one red card and one yellow card permanently in their wallet. The red card, because there might be more than one occasion when they need to show it to law enforcement, right? So in this case, somebody comes to your door, they keep on insisting, and you just don't want to risk saying the wrong thing. Just slide the red card under the door. If you can't, for whatever reason, you have, rubber tape. Can you please save that question for later? Yes. And if not, just show them through the window and just let them know that that's what you're going to do. You don't have to say anything. You just show them the red card. Now they all do know what that is. So make sure you don't answer any questions and you don't sign anything. So now we're going to watch a video that some interns did a couple years back. And I think Paul is going to help me play the video. Yeah, Paul? Thank you. And it's about 3 minutes long, but you will get a sense of what it would be like.
¿Tú no tomas crema con tu café, verdad? No, me cae mal, pero gracias por preguntar. ¿Esperabas a alguien? No. Es Ice, ¿qué hago? Espera, no abras la puerta, no tienes que abrir la puerta, no importa lo que digan. Yo puedo hablar con él, no te preocupes.
This is an ICE agent. This is an ICE agent. Open the door now.
Tenemos el derecho de no abrir la puerta.
¿Cómo que tengo el derecho de no abrir la puerta? Ustedes saben quién soy. Yo soy la ley. Yo represento al gobierno. Cuando yo digo tiene que abrir la puerta, usted tiene que abrir la puerta. Otra vez, abre la puerta, por favor.
Tenemos una tarjeta roja que explica nuestros derechos. No voy a dejar que entres a mi casa. Voy a dar esta tarjeta roja debajo de la puerta.
Está bien, pero voy a regresar.
Gracias por tu apoyo desde todo esto. Y no sabía qué hacer sin ti. ¿Tienes más tarjetas rojas? Sí, sí, claro que sí. Aquí hay para que tengas para siempre. Oh, gracias, gracias.
Si esto le ha sucedido en su hogar, en el lugar de trabajo o incluso en la calle, por favor afirma sus derechos con esta tarjeta roja.
Si un agente de inmigración toca la puerta, usted tiene el derecho de no abrir la puerta.
No contesta ninguna pregunta de un agente de inmigración. Tienes el derecho de mantenerse callada.
Usted no tiene que firmar nada sin antes de hablar con un abogado. Usted tiene el derecho de hablar con un abogado.
Si usted está fuera de su casa, pregunta a la gente si es libre para irse. Y si dice que sí, váyase con tranquilidad.
Y si usted está dentro de su casa, por favor use esta carta y pásesela debajo de la puerta o muéstresela por la ventana.
Usted tiene acceso a estas tarjetas en el sitio www.redcardorders.com.
Okay. We can go to the next slide.
Físicas en la pulga del Coliseo de Oakland.
Yeah, that's not accurate anymore. We are not at the flea market anymore. We're going to have to change the ending of the video. Yes. That's the situation, right? So many people don't know, and the first thing they do is open the door and make themselves vulnerable, to, there you go. So can you please practice with a partner really quick and just read this assertions, right? I do not want to answer any questions. Take a minute and just next to each other. We'll get there. All right. How was that? Ding. Okay. Okay. Let's get back to it. Where's that gong? Gong. All right. So that's how it feels, right? You need to assert your rights. It's something that you have the right to do. Thank you. We're Where's the bowl?
Oh, it's here.
Cowbell? Anybody? All right. So let's go back to it. Next slide. Now, somebody says, what if they have the warrant? And we say, it's so unlikely that they have that judicial warrant because that judicial warrant is the key to your door. So if you have the key to the door, do you ask, for permission more than once? Not really. If you say, no, I don't want to open the door, but they have a judicial warrant, they're not going to wait for you to say yes. They're just going to come in because they know they can't, right? So that's the only way someone can come to your home without your permission, a judicial warrant. Outside of that, they can yell, they can, knock the door, make you feel like they're going to knock down the house like the big bad wolf, and you can just tell them, no, I'm not opening the door if you don't have a judicial warrant. Now, the issue is that a judicial warrant is very different from an ICE warrant. An ICE warrant, which is the one on your right, okay, if you notice up top, it says U.S. Department of Homeland Security. And who signs at the bottom? It's some, person with a position, a high position in that department. So what is this administrative warrant? It's an order or a memo from a boss to an employee. Nothing else. With regards to your home, that doesn't give them the right to come into your house at all. They are receiving orders from their boss. That's all. Okay? Now, the judicial warrant is signed by a judge. So that's law. So you have to respect the law. And you need to check that it's signed by a judge. It says judge there. that it says court at the top, but because they've been breaking the law so much, we know that they are capable of coming with an outdated judicial warrant. Judicial warrants are only valid for 14 days. Anything older is not valid. It's not a key anymore. I also tell people, when I do workshops with the community, I tell them, in a situation like that, you're so nervous. Are you going to be able to read small print or anything? One way to identify the judicial warrant quickly is that little line in the middle. Most judicial documents have that little line with the case, the person, and the case number on the right. So that's one quick way of thinking, if it doesn't have that structure, it's not, a judicial warrant. But then also, let's say that it's signed by a judge. Let's say that it's within the term, of the date, but it's written to an address that is incorrect. If you live in 2550 Broadway, apartment C, if it doesn't say apartment C, that's not your home. So you check that the address is correct, and it also has to be in your name. So if you're not the person there, or if the person there is not living in your home, then that's not your judicial warrant for, that's not the key to your house, let's say, because that person is not there. So this is the difference between one and the other. Remember, one is an order from a boss to an employee, nothing more. So we know, statistics show that they use all sorts of ruses to get people to come out. The ugliest I can think of is them being outside the door, hiding in the bushes when families are taking their kids to school. But they do other things, such as telling you your son was a victim of an identity theft, and we need to speak with him. Can we come inside? We are looking for a person in the neighborhood. Criminal has run away. We need to, have you seen this person? You just tell them, I'm not opening the door if you want to show me through the window, otherwise I'm not going to open the door. No one can come into your home if you don't want them to, and if they don't have that key that we talked about. Now, ICE at the workplace, that's a different story, because it's not your home, it's your boss's, right? Or the company's. So the statistics show that most of the people detained while at work took off running. So the main thing that we need to tell people is, at work, take a deep breath and remain calm and standing still, wherever you're at. Do not move, just breathe, okay? Because they've been known to just arrive there yelling and saying, citizens on this side and non-citizens on the other, and people obey, and immediately they have probable cause for, okay, they are not citizens, so, I can tell them they're probably likely to be undocumented. So the most important thing is that people stand still. Allies too, so co-workers that, need to be in solidarity with their immigrant co-workers. It would be nice if they did exactly the same thing so that they can tell one from the other. Because there's going to be, the situation is so serious right now and so bad that I think we all have to think of sacrificing a little bit. And if someone is detained, being a citizen, that's going to be helpful for everybody in the end, in the long run. Of course, you make that decision yourself, how far you want to go in supporting a cause, right? But it's important to not say, I'm a citizen, I'm okay, you don't get me. It's the moment to be, in solidarity and say nothing. If the coworker says nothing, you say nothing. Now, it's important for, especially people who haven't been here long, is so important that they do not lie or provide false documents. They use false documents to be able to work, because that's what most of them come to do in this country. They just want to work and have a regular life away from violence or other, issues. So usually they might have it in their wallet, they might have something from their country, it's important that they do not have anything that is fake and that they do not lie, because in their countries it might be different, but here, if you lie, it's just going to work very poorly against you, right? So the most important thing also at the workplace, besides remaining calm, is knowing that they have no right to go into an area where a client or a customer is not allowed. So any areas where only employees are allowed, those are barred, ICE is barred from coming into those areas. So one of the best things we can do proactively is have very clear signs, big signs that say only employees can go beyond this point, for example, okay? Because otherwise they will be breaking the law. And also, if they were to come directly to you, you just hand them out the red card, same thing. And if they try to search your belongings, then it's really important that people, as soon as you see them, as soon as you witness them breaking the law in any way, that's when you pull out your camera, your phone, and you say, I'm going to record this interaction. I have the right to do this. And then you start recording close enough so that you can see their face, their name badge, or their badge number, and also to be able to hear what they're saying. So it's important to say, the moment that they're trying to search you by force, you say, I do not consent to this search, so that it's obvious that they're breaking the law. And we have material later on that we can send to the ACLU if they're doing a class action suit or something. And then when you see that they're on the losing end of things, hopefully, then everybody starts saying, am I free to go? Am I free to go? Because they have to have a reason to come and detain you. And they usually don't have enough grounds to do it. Now, the next situation is at a car stop. Who can stop you while you're driving? So what should I do if ICE stops my car? Well, in this situation, it's very clear. You ask the questions first. You have to find out who they are and why they stopped you. So it doesn't matter what they say, you just go ahead and answer with a question and say, who are you? Why am I being stopped? Because they need to identify themselves legally so that you know who they are. And they need a cause to stop you, because the only reason law enforcement can stop you while you're driving is because you have violated the traffic laws. But if you haven't, they have no reason to do it. So that's what the most important thing is why did you stop me? And that's why usually they ask you, say, do you know why you're being stopped, right? They ask you that question. Well, if they don't ask it, you ask it yourself. Why am I being stopped? What agency are you from? Are you local police? Are you sheriffs? Because most of the time, you've seen it. ICE doesn't have any identification on them, just a vest that says police. For all we know, they could be militias and kidnapping people, right? So that's what's important. And once you see that they don't have a legitimate reason to stop you, and also super important, just open a crack at the window. Do not open the whole window. And then once you see that they don't have a legitimate reason to stop you, you give them the red card and say, am I free to go? Because you're telling them, I'm not going to open this door. I don't consent to a search. Now, you've seen videos of people who've had their windows broken and attacked, and so on and so forth. So at that point, when they start breaking the law, that's when immediately you need to change gears into witnessing. And that's when if you have the capacity to do so, if you're on your own, but if you have somebody else, please start recording. Please start recording. And if you are in close enough to other people outside, you can tell them, please start recording this interaction. Because it's important that we show that they are breaking the law. And then if they start searching the car, they need a search warrant for the car, and they don't have it. probably, right? So you tell them, I do not consent to the search. I do not consent to being fingerprinted. They don't have the right to do any of those things. Now, the only thing that you need to do as a driver is that if any law enforcement, not ICE, the driver must present the license, insurance, and registration, if there's a good cause for stopping, right? Passengers, even if they are stopping you because you did violate a traffic law, they cannot ask for identification from the passengers. So ICE, even less, but they will, because that's what they're trying to do. They will go for one person that they have enough reason to detain, and they will just take everyone else around, but it's not legal. So let's just exercise our rights in whatever language we can, and just start repeating after me. I do not consent to a search of my car or belongings. I will not answer any questions. I do not give you permission to take my fingerprints. Am I free to go? So whenever you notice that, they're really losing ground, and you start telling them, am I free to go? Am I free to go? Am I free to go? Because they can't say, no, you're not. There's a reason for me to be here. They would be lying. Now, ICE in public spaces is probably the scariest one, because you don't have an area to, you're not surrounded by four walls of your property, or you don't have an area to sort of hide in. And it's tricky. But we're going to play a video by the ACLU. They have very good videos that, who's this? I don't know. Very cute. Paul, can we get back to the video? There you go. So let's watch the video, and I'll tell you about ACLU later.
It was a normal afternoon. Judy and her friend Liz went out for lunch. The two met in elementary school and have been friends ever since. Liz is an American citizen, and while Judy was brought to the U.S. by her parents when she was only 4 years old, she is undocumented. Liz noticed two men that seemed to be following them, but she thought nothing of it. That's when the men called out Judy's name as if they were old friends. When she turned, the men approached fast. Judy had just been identified by ICE. ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Stories like this happen every day and are happening now more than ever. ICE approaches people in the street, at work, in their car, or even in court. They often will not be in uniform. It's scary, but remember, we have rights. If you are stopped by authorities and don't know who they are, ask them to identify themselves. Then ask, am I free to go? If they say yes, walk away and do not answer any questions. In Judy's case, the agents told her she was not free to go. If this happens, do not resist or run away, and do not say anything, except I want to use my right to remain silent. I want to speak to a lawyer. Remember, you can ask to speak to a lawyer even if you don't have one. If the agents search your bag or your person, say, I do not agree to this search. They are looking for documents proving your immigration status. Witnesses have the right to film the interaction as long as they do not interrupt the arrest and they are transparent that they are filming. Judy was lucky. Even if you do everything right in a similar scenario, ICE may still arrest you. Another video in this series will help you understand your rights if you are arrested. After the encounter, Judy and Liz took notes about what happened, writing down as many details as they could remember. Be sure that you and your loved ones are prepared for encounters with ICE and that you have a plan for what to do if one of you is arrested, including information about who you should call. If ICE stops you in your community, remember, you have rights. Remain silent. Ask to speak to a lawyer. Say you do not agree to their search. If a loved one is arrested, you should be able to locate them at locator.ice.gov.
Okay, thank you. So at that address, aclu.org/we-have-rights, there are more videos that I totally recommend that you watch because they're, as you can see, pretty well done. And an image is worth 1,000. An image is worth 1,000 words. Yeah. So they're really helpful. And please share these resources with anyone. Share them with friends over WhatsApp or email or whatever. You know, everyone should know about it so that everyone can share about it. All right. So if arrested, you do have the right to refuse an ICE interview. You can say, I want to appear in front of an immigration court. That's what's going to give you more rights. The ICE interview, like I said, it's an order from a boss to the employee, and they're not as likely to respect the law. In an immigration court, it's different. And as you saw in the first part of presentations, the immigration court is part of the Department of Justice. ICE is part of the Department of Homeland Security. So you want to be dealing with the Department of Justice. You can request a hearing in front of a judge and then contact a lawyer. You have the right to contact a lawyer or someone that you might have designated first. And we recommend that you think of a person that can stay calm under pressure. You know, the person that, because at that moment you might not be able to recall the lawyer's number or, you know, think of what to say. You might be way too nervous and not do a good effort. And so it's better to just contact someone who can be doing that while you are in detention. So that's what we recommend. They have the obligation to give you a list of legal services so that you can contact the lawyer. And they have the obligation to provide an interpreter if you need one. They don't always do. Now, what can you do if you witness an ICE interaction? So this is where the yellow cards are so important, and that's why everyone needs one, because you don't know if you're going to be witness to a situation like that. And if you are, you need to know that in California, you do have the right to record the interaction as long as you don't interfere and as long as you announce it and are, you know, explicitly saying, I'm going to record this. I have the right to record this, right? We recommend that you're close enough to provide as much detail as possible while you're still staying safe. It's your decision. But you need to be very thorough about providing where and when that happened, you know, date, time, and location, precise location, and then see if you can get the badge number, like I said, as many details as you can, right? Yes, you should always prioritize your safety. And then you use the phone number of the county you're in. So it doesn't matter if you live in Alameda. If this happens in San Francisco, you call the San Francisco number because they will have people ready to go check and then confirm that that's ICE and then notify people and start, you know, figuring out ways to assist that person. And also, you know, to accumulate information on what they're doing and where and so on and so forth. So this is what you need to document. Where and when. How did the officers present themselves? Did they pretend to be police? Did they refuse to identify themselves? And how many officers were there? So these are bits of information that are important. What did they say? So that's why I say that, you know, you should stay as close as possible to record their words. They lied to enter a home or intimidated anyone or used verbal or physical force. And was consent given? And that's why it's so important that if you don't give consent to being, you know, having your purse searched, they're breaking the law. And that's one more thing in your favor and against their case. Now, it's really common in the immigrant community they were, you know, afraid already, living in the shadows already. So at the beginning of the year, they were really going into a panic and all sorts of rumors were going around. And unfortunately, as you know, a lot of the immigrant community have a lower literacy level than we do, and will be looking at information on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram. And those are not reliable. Always, talk to people about reliable sources. They can follow accounts of reliable sources on all that social media. And this is what you are supposed to be doing. Like if you can do a timestamp, if you don't have one, then just make notes afterwards. But it's really important to have as much information as possible. How to prepare? Well, this is where the family preparedness plan comes into play. That family preparedness plan is just leaving in writing what you want to happen if you become, hold on, just lost the word, thinking in Spanish. What's the word? Where's Vicky? No, oh gosh. En español no me acuerdo tampoco. Incapacitated, sort of. You see what I mean? So incapacitated or discapacitated, I'm not sure. But basically, if you are deployed suddenly, if you're in the army, that can take your family by surprise. If you are detained, if you have an accident, a serious accident, and all of a sudden, a head of household maybe is out of the picture for a month. It's good to have a plan in place to make the situation less traumatic for the vulnerable population, which are, minors and disabled children or adults, right? So it's important to know their rights. It's important to prepare this family preparedness plan because that makes them get all their documents in order in a safe place where they can be used when necessary. It's super important for people with children that their emergency cards at school are updated always, because that information is key. If something happens, the school is going to call the first person. If they don't respond, they're going to call the second one and then the third one. The family preparedness plan is detailed enough that covers everything, and it's very well done. We got it from Santa Cruz. They had been using it for a while, and everybody else was using another model. It was the Immigration Law Resource Center model, and they were handing it to immigrant families, and that wasn't helping at all because it was very confusing, and parents were scared of losing their children, the guardianship. So this family preparedness plan that we train on is a lot better. It's really important that people have passports that are valid, whether it's the US or their own country. And then it's also important to talk to your children and your family in general about, the possibility of something happening. Then we would send you with auntie, or we would send you with grandma, or whatever the situation is, right? And it's also important to communicate to all immigrants that they should have, or they should now, as much as they can, try very hard to have a consultation with a lawyer. They need to talk to a lawyer because so many people, there are a lot of people that have been living here and have never talked to a lawyer. And they didn't know that they have an asylum case, a clean one, a very easy one to prove, for example. So it's really important that, if you know any immigrants, you tell them, have you ever talked to a lawyer? Do you know if you have a case or not? What did they tell you, So that's, the family preparedness plan is useful for that. And then it's really important to tell them, what do you have in your wallet? Because it's really important that they have a red card, a yellow card, and if they have a permanent status, which is only naturalization certificate or, citizenship, the American passport, or their green card, the permanent legal resident status. Those are the two that supposedly are respected, but we all know what's happening, right? Those are good to have in your wallet. But if you do not have one, it's better to just have a state ID because you don't want to tell them what's your level of immigration status, okay? Because there are different levels. There's permanent status, the semi-permanent, which is asylum, U visa, which you heard about earlier, which is being a witness or victim of a crime, violent crime. T visa is for people who have been victims or witnesses of human trafficking. And those are the three semi-permanent that get a little bit more respect, supposedly. But then everybody else is underdocumented, DACA, temporary protection status. All these people, you know, they've been here for 25, 30 years, renewing their temporary protection status for 25, 30 years every 18 months, paying $500 each time. And every time that they need to renew, if they don't do it, you know, if the timing is not right and they spend one day without coverage, let's say, they lose their work permit and they lose their medical coverage. So people who have been working for 25 years for the same company, HR will get on their case early on. You need to renew, you know? Insane. And many of the people that have temporary protection status are victims of disasters. So people from the earthquakes in Honduras, now they have been denied their TPS. And it's just insane what's happening. So, as I said, we recommend also having the number of your attorney, if you have one, just in case you cannot remember it by heart, but it would be good to have it memorized in case they take away your phone and your wallet. Then you don't want to be left without recourse. And then also the most vulnerable right now are the people that have been here for less than 2 years, because that's where they wouldn't be breaking the law. Those people have no right, let's say, to be here. And if they can't prove that they've been here for more than 2 years, they don't get due process at all, right? I mean, no one is getting due process these days, but those people are even, you know, it's legal to do that. So if anyone who's been here for 2 years and a day, it's better that they have a phone bill, a utility bill, a school document, anything that proves that they were here 2 years and a day ago, right? Prove their presence here. Important not to have anything of foreign origin in their wallet, because that gives them, you know, an argument to say, oh, but they are foreign. And of course, no false documents at all. Sometimes people just are busy just working and they have old documents and they don't look what's in their wallet and they have stuff that they should not have. So we do have, as you have seen in the tables, we do have plenty of red cards and yellow cards. Remember, each person needs one yellow card at least. One yellow card and then one red card at least. And this is a bad slide. I need to delete some of this stuff here. But we have red cards in many different languages, thanks to Friends of La Peña and volunteers from Indivisible that we're printing. And those are helpful if you know anyone who is not a Spanish speaker. It's important. It's not easy to find those cards, so I would recommend that you get them here today. So let's just do it one last time and see if you remember by heart. I have the right to remain silent. I will not sign any documents. You do not have permission to enter my home. Thank you. And here's some information. We do have a little clinic Saturdays, 10 to 3, the first 3 Saturdays of the month at Achieve Academy in Oakland. We have the Voces Mayas team, which is a team that speaks Mam, and it's dedicated to the Mayan community. And you can call them, and they have a hotline, and we'll get back to you. And if you need more information about Know Your Rights, you can go to our website. We have a dedicated page. And you can also call our paralegal hotline Monday through Friday, 10 to 12. So now we're ready for questions. If you don't mind, I'm going to do that while sitting down. All right. So did somebody collect the questions? Okay. Let me see. All right. Yes. I think, actually on that table, there's pieces of paper and pens. Uh-huh. Do you have some? We didn't do it. Okay. Oh, okay. If you have any questions, just come and talk to me. Thank you.
We got our cues a little crossed here. Marisa, thank you so much. I do want to quickly acknowledge all the people who worked on this event. My deepest thanks to Margaret, Jillian, Nancy, Sumi, Hank, Jeff, and other BFUU members for their preparations for this event. And Margaret, are you available? She would like to say a few quick words before we convene to the tables. And I know you'll have plenty of questions for Marisa. Marisa, if you want to stay there, that's fine. If you want to be with your materials, you can do that too.
Hi, everyone. We cannot thank you all enough. Speakers, planners, volunteers, and attendees for the energy that you've devoted to making this event happen. Our time here together today, listening and learning, has certainly proved the need for collective action on behalf of the people in our neighborhoods who are suffering from want, harassment, worry, and fear. As you disperse to the resource tables at the side of the room and the snack tables at the back, we welcome you to donate some time and money to these invaluable agencies. If you don't have time to talk with the speakers, please leave your questions, your contact information, and the name of the speaker from whom you would like a response, and we will connect you with them. You can leave them in a basket on the table near the piano, so over there. Thank you for coming. And Phoebe Sorgen is now going to speak.
We're so proud of this event today, this wonderful event. Thanks again to all who participated, especially our panelists. BFUU is a founding member of the East Bay Sanctuary Covenant, and we are very grateful for that fine agency's work over the decades. If you don't have a spiritual home, or even if you do, you can have more than one. We welcome you back on Sunday mornings at 10:30. We had very inspiring services that are eclectic. As you can see by the banners on the back wall, we are rather interfaith, and we welcome atheists, agnostics, secular humanists, Jews, Buddhists, Christians. There might even be a few Christians left, and pagans like me. You see the naked lady back there. So we believe in the inherent dignity and worth of every human being, and please join us Sunday mornings. Our services vary a lot, so you can try more than one and stay for lunch afterwards for community, inspiration, music. Welcome. Also, this is the fun place to come on Friday nights, where we have dances, and on third Friday, open mic.
Okay, so I'm going to give the answers to 3 questions I got here so that everybody hears them, and they're interesting questions. One, it says, does simply opening the door give ICE the right to come in even if you say no? No, if they don't have a judicial warrant, they have no right to be inside your home if you say, I do not consent you being here. I do not want you to come in. And if you say that, they're breaking the law. So now, again, if you're alone, it's tricky to film it yourself. But if somebody else is there with you and you see they're knocking down the door, immediately start recording and just say, you are not allowed into my home. I don't want you to come in, because that's sufficient to later on prove that they had no right to come in, okay? So saying no, it's not enough. You need to have proof of it a little bit, okay? Let's see. How legally protected are we from ICE once we are detained? Or what happens once we are detained? That's where the ACLU videos are really useful. Of course, you know, they're breaking the law and violating people's rights. But that will, you know, if you notified the Rapid Response Network immediately, somebody can start working on helping you build up a case against them. They're going to start looking for you with the locator link. And so, you know, yes, they're going to be violating your rights while you are detained. You can count on that. But if you notify somebody immediately as it happens, then you're that much closer to being able to be, you know, to have some justice, right? So someone will be helping you find a lawyer, somebody will be building up a case while you are in detention. Why are people who are here less than 2 years without rights? They're not without rights. They are, immigration law says that if you've been here for less than 2 years, you don't have the right to due process. But you still have constitutional rights. Okay? So they still have the right to remain silent. They still have the right to close the door and not open it without a judicial warrant. And they still have the right to have a lawyer. The problem is that that's supposedly the removal process, the deportation, that they don't have to give any explanation, and they can, you know, they can skip the due process completely by law. So if they take somebody who's been here for less than 2 years and put them on a plane to El Salvador or Sudan, they are not breaking the law. That is completely legal, insane as it is. And then this one. What triggers ICE to show up at doors? Is ICE coming into homes when no one is home based on welfare check justification, and are permanent residents at risk? Permanent residents, everybody that's not a citizen is at risk. I am a permanent resident and I'm at risk. But the thing is, you still have your constitutional rights, and you still have, you know, the solidarity of the organizations that are going to be backing you up. They show up at doors trying to deport anyone they can. Now, they're using that excuse to target people politically. You've seen their, you know, detaining students who have been in favor of, you know, the Palestinian movement. There's not much you can do about that. Be discreet online. That's the one thing I can say. They cannot come into your home when you're not home unless they have a judicial warrant. So they would be breaking the law. And the welfare check only applies if there is an unaccompanied minor in the home. Unaccompanied minors are every single child that has crossed the border and been separated from their parents or their relatives at the border. So a child can be coming with grandma or mom or uncle at the border. They separate them. They put the children in a different detention center. They categorize them as unaccompanied minors, and when they're released to their relatives, they remain unaccompanied minors as long as they're here. So, you know, even if they're living with their family, they remain, you know, in that category, and that's the excuse they have to come and do welfare checks, which is, it's perverse, honestly, but that's what happened. That's the one case we've had here in Berkeley. They came to do a welfare check on a minor. thank goodness, supportive family had already suggested that they use their address instead of their real one, and that's why they didn't find them in the home. But that's the situation we're in. So that's why solidarity is the most important thing right now. And that was the last question, and I'm done for the day. Thank you.
This is all being recorded and will be available on our BFUU website pretty soon if you want to watch any part of it again.